All right, so we're going to expand on our sentences by adding in information about where you do things. Okay, so adding in the places. Starting with the nouns themselves. If you are at a store, you are at le magasin. Le magasin. Do not confuse this with le magazine. That's a magazine. This is a magasin. A movie theater. The word is properly le cinéma, but most French people just call it le ciné. Either one works. Café is already a French word. To use it in a sentence, all we have to do is throw a le in front. Le café. A library. The library is la bibliothèque. La bibliothèque. You will see the word librairie, but do not get confused. A bibliothèque is a library where you borrow books and bring them back and you pay for it with your taxes, all of that. A librairie is a bookstore, like a Barnes & Noble or a place like that. So don't get them confused. They are related, but they're not the same thing. A stadium is le stade. Le stade. I always feel like le stade is pretty easy to remember because both words have the exact same beginning. A rec center or a community center. We have a bunch of names for these places in English, but essentially it's a place where people in the community, especially young people, can go and play games and play sports and do different activities. And it's just kind of a cool place for people who live in the area to hang out. It's properly called La Maison des Jeunes et de la Culture. La Maison des Jeunes et de la Culture. But since that's really long, most French people just call it La MJC. La MJC. The mall. Okay, so you want to go shopping at the mall. You're going to go to le centre commercial. Le centre commercial. A high school. So you're going up to North for an activity or a sports game or something like that. You're going to le lycée. Le lycée. A park. You just want to go hang out in like a Loose Park or Swope Park or one of those types of places. Super easy. Le parc. It's pronounced pretty much the same. Park, park. But we spell it a little bit differently. We don't like K's at the ends of the word in French, so we're going to spell it with a C instead. But it still gets pronounced. Le parc. And then finally a pool. So like summertime, you want to go swimming, you're going to la piscine. La piscine. Okay, so let's start by looking at an example sentence. So you want to say, I like to read. How would you do that? You should know that it's j'aime lire. We just took that test. J'aime, I like, lire, to read. J'aime lire. Okay, so now we're going to add in some more information about where we read. Okay, so maybe you like to read at the library. Okay, so j'aime lire something la bibliothèque. But how do we say the at is our next question? Our base word for at or to Depending on the sentence, you can use them to mean either, this word to mean either thing. The word is a. You know, just say an A with an accent aigu, or an accent grave, excuse me. A. So for example, j'aime lire à la bibliothèque. However, a is just our base word. Depending on the gender of the word that comes after a, it will contract in different ways. So a is our base word, and we knew that we saw that before a feminine word like bibliothèque, à la. But if we see it in front of a masculine word, we can no longer use a. We're going to say o. O. For example, if you're going to le stade, you would be going au stade. The a and the le combine and form a totally brand new word, o. If you have a plural word, regardless of if it's feminine or masculine, we're going to use o. That's right, it sounds the exact same as it did in front of a masculine word, o and o. Okay, but notice that now we have that X. Remember, a few units back we talked about how to pluralize nouns, and that in any word that ended with the letter U, when we went to pluralize it, we had to use the letter X. Remember, like bureau and tableau, we had to add an X instead of an S. Same thing here. Okay, so we have à la, o, or o. But we actually have an entirely other word for to or at if the place that we were talking about has something to do with a specific person. Okay, so like a library or a stadium or a store or a movie theater, lots and lots of different people come in and out of those places all the time. But if there's one specific person associated with the place where you're going, okay, so for example, it's your best friend's house, okay, then we're going to not use à la, o, or o at all. We're going to say chez. Chez. So for example, you can j'aime lire à la bibliothèque, I like to read at the library, but j'aime lire chez mon ami, I like to read at my friend's house. Yeah, there's no word for house in there at all, is there? We know that I like to read, and we know ami is friend. The mon means my. When we're talking about a specific person and we use chez, if we don't mention any other place, we assume that the place that we're talking about is their house. Okay. J'aime lire chez mon ami is the exact same thing as saying I like to read at my friend's house, even though the house isn't there at all. Similarly, if I wanted to say I like to read at Bob's house, j'aime lire chez Bob, and you're done. You don't have to worry about the word house at all. That's not the only time you can use chez. We also use chez when we're talking about an appointment with a specific person. So for example, if you have a doctor's appointment, you have that appointment with one specific person, your doctor, so you would say that you have an appointment chez le docteur, okay, at the doctor.